Hi, I'm V. Today I'm making stamps out of erasers and water-based markers. A stamp can be made out of so many different things, but its end result is always going to have two things: positive space and negative space. In art, positive space is generally the subject and negative space is the space surrounding said subject. There are two types of stamps. There's positive space stamps and negative space stamps. A positive space stamp is going to have the object inked. A negative space stamp is going to be where the object itself is not inked, but everything around it is. To start my project today, the first thing I do is sketch out my game plan. I trace out my eraser and decide that I'm going to split one eraser into 2 stamps and another eraser into 3 stamps. I draw a penguin wearing a winter hat, a floppy panda stuffy, a candy cane, a Christmas tree, and a bow. All of them are going to be positive space stamps. Then I transfer my designs onto the eraser using a process I've used in the past. Because this is an eraser it's transferring onto, the lines are very faint, and I do retrace that with a pen, and I end up just freehanding the rest of the drawings. Since I made multiple stamps on each eraser, I do end up cutting them apart. That way it'll be easier to carve, but also so I can use each stamp individually in the future. The linoleum cutter that I own comes with 6 blades. None of the blades are the type of blade that I prefer, which is a very sharp V. Most of them are U-shaped blades, so I take a needle nose plier and pinch one of the small U's to make an even smaller U. This will help me remove the least amount of eraser at a time, so that way I can carve out more delicate lines and hopefully make less mistakes. When I'm creating a positive space stamp like I am today, I first cut out the peripheral of the object, and then I cut out all of the remaining negative space that's around the object. If there's any negative space within the object, like with this penguin where the stomach is going to be a negative space, I cut that out next. And finally, I'll remove any detailing lines from the positive space. Carving out a negative space stamp is easier because you're basically just drawing with a knife. I definitely recommend it for beginners. I use water-based markers as ink because I don't want to buy an ink pad. To do this, I can either color directly onto the stamp or I can color onto a flat piece of plastic and then use it as an ink pad. While I'm carving these stamps, I use the water-based markers to check and see if I need to remove any more space or make any sort of corrections. I do try to keep in mind that I can always remove more, but once it's gone, it's gone. If I do decide to color directly onto the stamps, I can create some fun color patterns and designs to add more interest to these stamps. Since these erasers are fairly thick, I'm able to turn them over and carve more stamps on the back side. I wasn't really satisfied with my penguin or my candy cane carvings, so I decided I'm going to carve out some negative space stamps for those. I also carve out a negative space star, but then I decide to change that into a positive space stamp, and I also carve out a positive space heart stamp. I also decided to try my hand at carving letters. Letters and words are a lot more difficult because you have to carve them backwards, so that way they will appear correct when you stamp them down. I decided to carve M-O-N for Monday. This way, if I do like how it turns out, I can carve out something for each day of the week and use that in my bullet journal. I think it turned out okay, but I definitely need more practice before I'm going to carve any more words in the future. Eventually, I would like to be able to carve some more time-saving bullet journal stamps to ease some of the tediousness that goes along with setting up my bullet journal pages. It's story time! Yay! Once upon a time, Pete the Penguin wandered around the forest with his shadow friend Pablo. This wasn't just any old forest, it was the Candy Cane Forest. Candy cane barricades helped guide the adventurers safely through the forest, but some of the forest was blocked off by impervious barricades. This is where the magic lived. Even Pete wanted to take a peek past the barricade that blocked the Rainbow Forest. It was rumored that the Rainbow Forest would erupt and little bits of magic would gently fall, landing among the banks of Toboggan Trek. And if the forest selected you, a little bit of magic would fall in your path as you played. Penelope the panda came every year. She knew Toboggan Trek like the back of her hand. She had always hoped that the forest would choose her and send her a little bit of magic. Every year she made new friends like Pete and Pablo. They would spend their days playing, filled with the excitement of the possibility of finding hidden magic along the snowy banks. The memories they made on these slopes are ones they'll never forget. Penelope, Pete, and Pablo may never find the magic they're looking for, but the magic they didn't look for has already found them. The end. As always, if you want to please the Pandaverse, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Next week, I'm working on some more pages of my Wreck This Journal. If you like this video, check out my panda ear video and you can find out how I made these. Watch out! It's a stampede! Story time! Story time! Story time! Alliteration for the win! Woo! Alliteration, alliteration, alliteration. Part 2. Parkour.